What are the expectations according to you that investors should set for 2019?
The year 2019 is expected to be quite challenging for the investors. After having seen a great few years, last year we had a little bit of a stumble in terms of the volatility got to the better of most investors. We've seen challenges both on the equity side as well as on the fixed income side. However, as investors, our goal is always to invest for the long term. So 2019, we should look at it exactly from that point of view. Let's look at the corporate India performance. The corporate India is doing very well. So really speaking, there are various events both on the world side as well as the domestic side where we have the impending elections. So we shouldn't be looking at an event-based investment, but we should really look at long-term investments. And clearly 2019 from an investor perspective is going to test the patience of the investor. However, we are quite optimistic that corporate India performance will ensure that in future you will have great results coming in, because we've seen the last 6 quarters of good results, and we know for a fact that somewhere the stock market valuations always catch up to the actual performance of the industry. So looking forward to bright optimistic times in the future for Indians, so we should stay invested in 2019.
Which fund categories, according to you, should investors look at investing in 2019? What is your advice to both first time and experienced investors?
If you look at the fund categories both on the fixed income side as well as the equity side, we would suggest the following. If there are customers who are coming first time into this industry, they should be invested in what we call large cap oriented diversified equity schemes. It's very important for a customer to be invested in large cap oriented diversified scheme because those are less volatile as compared to the small and mid cap space. The chances of new investors getting swayed with the historical performance of small and mid cap leads them to come into an asset class which they are not used to, because essentially they are coming in from bank fixed deposits or bank accounts to equity funds. More important, we should be looking at also hybrid funds for new investors. However, if an investor is a seasoned investor who's been there in the market, who's tested out mutual funds, is willing to accept certain amount of risk, as a fund house, we always believe that small and mid cap funds over a 5-7 year period outperform the large cap oriented funds. On the fixed income side, in the current situation in the market, one needs to stay invested on the shorter end of the horizon. So ultra short-term funds or short-term oriented debt funds are suitable for investors. However, given the credit situation in the market, there are funds which have reasonably good quality credit, and they are getting higher yields on that. So some investors who are willing to take a little amount of risk can also look at credit funds because they would give superior returns as compared to a duration fund in the current time.
Lok Sabha elections are just round the corner. Do you think mutual fund investors should be concerned about it or make any kind of changes to their investment strategy?
If you look at elections is just another event among the various events which go on in a marketplace. And although elections do have a short-term impact in terms of how the behavior in the market is, we are looking at investments for the long term when it comes to mutual funds. Because when we look at equity funds especially, we are looking at a 3, 5, 7 year horizon. And what's important at that point of time is to understand how is the Indian economy doing, how is the Indian corporate sector doing, how are the corporates performing in terms of the profits, etc. So elections is an event, and I don't think investment should be done based on an event-led situation. Yes, if party A or party B wins or loses, it can have a very short term, maybe 2, 4, 10 days impact in terms of the way the markets may behave. But it can also prove quite beneficial if the party which is expected to do better for the Indian economy wins, and by staying out before election results, we may actually lose out on the rally that can happen. So we would always advise people never to look at short-term events while investing in mutual funds.
In 2018, the IT sector was the top performer. Is there any particular sector or thematic fund you'd like to recommend to investors in the current period?
As a fund house, we generally stay away from sector funds. The only sector fund we have is our infrastructure fund. Sector funds are very good for those investors who are uh, willing to take much higher risk than normal. Also, it's very important that sectors do have their ups and do have their down cycles. And it's very rare that you would give an exit call in a down cycle. So, if anyone is entering sector funds, they should be willing to look at a down cycle and also do an exit at that point in time. We always advise investors to look at diversified equity funds because we believe that's the right way to go about it. Sector funds are meant for those people who are willing to take extremely high risk.
What is the investing strategy followed by L&T as a fund house?
The USP of our investment strategy is that we call ourselves true to label. What do we mean by true to label? One, we are very clearly long term oriented in the stocks that we invest in. So we do not play momentum. For example, if there's a particular event which is a near term event which we know may have an impact on the markets for maybe one month or 2 months, we are not really concerned on that, which is clearly a bottom up strategy that we look at in terms of company performance. More importantly, true to label denotes that if we have a large cap oriented scheme, majority, which is 80-90% plus of our stocks which are there in the portfolio, is large cap in nature. For example, our infrastructure fund has pure infrastructure companies and do not have any other companies. Or our emerging business fund, which was meant to be a small cap fund, already used to have about 70 to 80% of the stocks in the small cap space. So true to label denotes that what we say is what we actually do.
What are the initiatives undertaken at L&T Mutual Fund for better investor engagement?
L&T Mutual Fund, we regularly take different kinds of initiatives to engage with various strata of investors, be they from the lower strata of society or students or from higher strata of society. We have always believed in educating investors, and to that effect, we always advise investors that when they spread their money, they should be looking at different asset classes as they go along. Right from our CEO letter, which covers some different aspects of personal finance and personal investing, to the latest initiative of ours, which is we've developed a very interesting children's education calculator. This calculator, unlike various other calculators which are available in the market, clearly defines the cost of possibly educating your child either in India or abroad across a various set of professions that the child may want to go for. Also, in case one of the professions is not mentioned out there, you could put in your own profession and the fees. It calculates the amount of money basis how much you have saved till now and what is the goal that you have. It would tell you whether you're in line to achieve your goal or what is the extra amount that you will need to invest from today so that your child's goal is met in terms of his educational needs.